Hey, you may or may not have heard, we are in the midst of planning our first ever film festival, and we could not be more excited with our promotional artwork done by Capt. And this video is sponsored by her and her artistic endeavors, and you, yes, you watching this right now, can also have Capt do your wildest dreams come to life. Click the link in the descriptions below to get in touch with her. What's going on? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to our content, we create content like what you're watching right now simply to educate and engage individuals like yourselves on mental health awareness and suicide prevention through pop culture. My name's Captain Nostalgia. I have the privilege of being a writer, podcaster, and our film festival director for our Horrific Hope Festival. If you guys would like information on this year's sponsors, film lineups, and where to get tickets, click the link in the description below. But you guys can also check out more movie reviews like this, our podcast, links to all of our social media, Patreon, and most importantly, our mental health resource library, all of which can be found in the descriptions below. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about The Long Night, which hits DVD, Blu-ray, and VOD beginning April 5th. Alright, so The Long Night tells the story of a young girl who grows up and she is a product of the foster care system and seeks out to find her biological parents, and when taking a trip to find her biological parents, she ends up getting a little bit more than she bargains for. First thing I'm going to say outright about this movie is Scout Taylor Compton absolutely 100% carries this movie. She's really great in this role, and this movie, while it does have its issues, and I'll talk about them in just a few seconds, she is absolutely the anchor that holds this entire film together. I think the reason that I really gravitated towards her performance as the highlight of this movie is because she has the arc of the film. Like, she is the anchor of it in every sense of the way. When we first meet her, she's very kind of shy, but she eventually grows into becoming this very strong woman. And a portion of that change and that growth kind of come from the circumstances of the film, but also the legacy of her character. It's really interesting to watch those two elements converge into character development for her character. At the end of the day, it's just a really strong character, and to kind of see her grow into that character, it's very satisfying. The film also stars Nolan Gerard Funk in this movie as Scout's boyfriend, and he is kind of some of the issues of the film, but also at the same time, he's also kind of, oddly enough, some of the film's comic relief. Make no mistake, when I'm talking about comic relief, I am essentially saying that this is a character that is inherently not giving us traditional comic relief, but black comic relief. That's the thing about this movie, is that it's very bleak. It's very an interesting movie to dissect and to kind of look at from a mental health point of view, and I'll talk about that when we get to the mental health moment. But there's a lot about this movie that, from its lighting, from its themes, it's a very dark movie, and so what I appreciate about it is that it stays in tone when it gives those comedic moments. They are also feel like black comedy moments. Let's talk about the pacing of this movie, because the pacing of this movie is immaculate. This movie is divided up into 5 chapters, as we talked about in our interview with Rich, the film's director. And this movie is really interesting to gauge in the way that it comes about, essentially, because it's, as I said, it's divided into 5 chapters. Each new chapter kind of breaks down and introduces a new mystery element, and then it just kind of goes crazily into the final act. And this movie really does pick up and really does kind of deliver on its horror. It's a slow burn horror movie. You really have to earn it, so to say. That's something that I genuinely appreciate about this movie. I appreciate that it while you get elements of those horror that are sprinkled in, there's no context for what you're seeing until the third act. And that's kind of the brilliance of this movie. I think that allowing the audience to kind of get those foreshadowing moments, invest them to kind of want to know what kind of comes in. And alas, my biggest issues with this, I previously mentioned funk as one of my issues with this film. But unfortunately, as much as I love the third act, that is the horror fan in me talking and not necessarily the film critic in me talking. Let's talk about Funk already. Let's bring him up again. Funk as a character, period, in this movie is very formulaic. I mean, he is very familiar. We've seen him and characters like him a dozen times in horror movies. He is shallow. He is devoid of character development and purpose, and he really seems like he is only here to really kind of, in essence, bring out some of those lighter moments, but also at the same time, if you took him out of this movie, it would probably be exactly the same. And that's what I kind of hate, love and hate about some of the characters in horror, is that these movies, sometimes characters in this genre can just be so interchangeably. But make no mistake, like, this is a Scout Taylor Compton movie, and her character arc proves that through and through. I'm also going to say I really enjoy the character design of the antagonist. I'm not going to kind of explain a little bit more than that, because the less you know about this movie, the more effective I believe it is. There it goes again, that the saying of the mantra. I'm just going to get the YouTube banner, and anytime you come to the YouTube page, it's just going to say, the less you know. But also at the same time, my biggest problems with them is that this movie, with their elements, and sadly, as much as I love Scout's arc throughout the course of this movie just kind of feels void of purpose sometimes. It feels very formulaic. It feels very familiar. Break new ground in any way, shape, or form. I'm probably getting people in the comments right now saying, well, if you're coming to horror for groundbreaking stuff, you're coming to the wrong genre. Make no mistake, this movie is good. It is just very familiar. So let's go and run this through our Rorschach rating scale, shall we? On a scale of 0 to 5, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.5 out of 5. There's genuinely a lot that I loved about this movie. I think this movie does atmosphere really well. It's very bizarre. It has stunning imagery. Scout Taylor Compton's performance is great. It's paced really well. But there's so much about the familiarity of the villain's arc and kind of even Scout's arc. As much as I love it, there's a lot of familiarity. And Nolan Gerard Funk didn't have to be in this movie whatsoever. That's my thoughts. You guys can check it out when it hits VOD and physical beginning April 5th from Wellgo Entertainment. But let's jump into our mental health moment. If you guys are new to our content, mental health moment is where we take a theme of mental health and we pull it out, deconstruct it, in hopes to also deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health for just a few moments. I mentioned this earlier when talking about Scout's arc throughout the course of this film. At the beginning of the film, you find out that she is a orphan and turned foster kid, and she has basically been on a hunt to find her biological family for 10 years. And that's a scary place to be from a mental health perspective, not knowing where you come from or not knowing who you are. Long and arduous journey, I will say that. I have stated on the podcast several times that I am aware of who I am because of my identity in Christ. Even taking out religion, I know who I am and I know who I'm comfortable with, because I've spent many years refining and looking at myself and having hard conversations. And it's taken me a long time and a lot of work on my mental health to get to the place where I am. So I don't say that to brag. I say that to encourage you to really consider where your own mental health spot is now and how your identity correlates to that. Like, do you take up identity in what you do or who you are? I would encourage you to even have those hard conversations. Ask your therapist, ask your family, ask your friends, because it's a real heavy burden when you don't know who you are. And if you need to find a therapist, or you need to find someone that can work with your insurance, or that's within your network or whatever have you, consider our mental health resource library below. Quite a few resources that will help you kind of come to the bottom of that. But also at the same time, it's also about reflecting inward and asking yourself who you are. And are you the same person that you were yesterday, last week, or last year? Those answers fluctuate and change so much, but there's always a foundation identity that lies into who you are as an individual. And if you don't know, just understand that you are loved and that you have value and that you have worth, and allow that to be the starting point for who you are as an individual and who you are in your identity. I hope this is encouragement to you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out our interview with Rich Ragsdale, who is the director on this film. This DVD, this Blu-ray as well, is well worth your money and time. I talked about it in the interview. It comes with a special edition commentary with Rich, as well as the composer and editor along with this one, and also comes with Rich's short film The Loop, which is highly entertaining. You guys can pick all that up beginning April 5th. Thank you guys for watching.